Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get into today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing the Line. Today we're going to take a look at this story from Fox News about Riley Gaines. She was speaking at a school in the US in San Francisco, California, where she was viciously assaulted by a man in a dress, held hostage for 3 hours while the police stood around and did nothing, all because she was there to talk about women's rights in sports and the future of women's sports. And she has a history with the topic where she was the runner-up against Leah Thomas. She came second in a race due to the fact that the judges basically gave Leah Thomas, in a direct tie even, they gave Leah Thomas the medal just so that they could have bragging rights that they had a trans swimmer win first place. Now, women's sports is under attack. Women in general are under attack with this trans movement. They seem to be getting kicked out of their safe spaces that they spent decades and generations of women fighting to have. They're not allowed to have their own private washrooms anymore, no showers or toilets without men being present. You're not allowed to have your own sports. You're not allowed to have your own classes. You're not allowed to go and open up a wax and beauty salon and not have to wax people's testicles, apparently. So we'll get into the story from the Fox News. Riley Gaines ambushed and physically hit after saving women's sports speech at a San Francisco state. Riley Gaines was barricaded in a room on the third floor of the university building for nearly 3 hours after the protests began. Former NCAA swimmer Riley Gaines was barricaded in a room at San Francisco State University Thursday night after she was physically assaulted following a speech to students about saving women's sports at a Turning Point USA and Leadership Institute event on the campus. Lewis Barker, Riley's husband, said he had brief conversations with her while she was barricaded in the room for nearly 3 hours. She told me she was hit multiple times by a guy in a dress. I was shaking. It made me that mad. It makes me sick to feel so helpless about it, Barker said. She was under police protection if she was still hit by a man wearing a dress. Now, I don't know about you, but if my wife had called me and she was in the same or similar position, I would have turned that school into Sandy Hook in about 5 minutes flat. On Twitter, Gaines shared footage that she was showing her being rushed out of the venue by police officers amid an onslaught of verbal attacks from the detractors who surrounded her. The prisoners are running the asylum at SFSU. I was ambushed and physically hit twice by a man, Gaines wrote in a tweet. This is proof that women need sex-protected spaces. Still only further assures me that I'm doing something right. When they want you to be silent, speak louder. While Gaines spoke to the students, many of whom expressed opposition to her viewpoints, other footage from the event showed the swimmer's remarks being drowned out by a group of pro-trans protesters who had become increasingly loud outside the room. Tonight, Riley Gaines spoke at San Francisco State University to share a personal story of competing against a biological male athlete, Leah Thomas. At the Women's NCAA Swimming Championships last year, Ellie Bremer, Gaines' agent, said to the Fox News Digital lengthy statement, in the past year, her goal in speaking at university has been educate her peers about her experience and what the impact of growing number of biological males in women's sports will do to the integrity of the title. She has been questioned in civil and somewhat uncivil manners about her views many times, and she thoroughly encourages diverse viewpoints and debate on the issue. The problem is they do not want debate, they do not want thought, they do not want a diverse opinion on the matter. These trans activists, and it's not even really trans people, it's just mentally unhinged people on the left who think they're fighting for something, but they have nothing to fight for. There's no trans exclusion in any sports. If you're a male and you transition to becoming a female, then you're still biologically a male, so you can still biologically fit into male sports. It just means you're not going to dominate the industry like the top of the line males are who aren't taking estrogen. Now, they want you to pretend that biology doesn't exist. They want you to pretend that human history and our millions of years of evolution do not exist. And that just because they feel something and they think something in their head, whether they're delusional or not, they want you to pretend that their reality, their truth is real and just as real as you or I and the reality that we actually do live in. And anytime that someone speaks out against it, like this Riley Gaines girl, they are shut down. They are banned off social media in a lot of cases. They do not go on any sort of actual mainstream media outlets without being hounded and attacked for their views. And when they do go on social media, they're bullied, harassed, and told to commit suicide and all sorts of things. And now you're seeing that when they go out in public, they're getting attacked by these radical psychopath leftists that have some sort of twisted agenda to brainwash everyone else around them into thinking what they think. There is no civil discourse anymore. There hasn't been civil discourse in years. I mean, you're getting Ben Shapiro's getting bomb threats made against him, Tim Cast, IRL, they're getting swatted constantly. Riley Gaines getting attacked here. Anyone who speaks out loud with Crowder, I mean, he's been attacked in the street doing his stuff there. I mean, look what they're doing to Alex Jones even. I mean, you can say what you want about the man, but he's been more right lately than he has been wrong. And he's been attacked in the court system and attacked world over by everything. I mean, banned off of just about every single platform in the world. You could you could basically say he is the enemy number one of the left. But it just goes to show that a young, bright, smart, intelligent, athletic girl who has put her heart and soul into her sport is being kicked out by men. Now, I can imagine 20-something years ago when the feminists would be in an uproar if that was happening. And apparently now it's okay for men to hit women as long as that man's wearing a dress, and the police are just going to stand by and do nothing. She was held hostage by these psychos and activists, terrorists, I'd call them, for 3 hours, worrying whether she was going to get burnt out of that room, stomped to death by these high heel wearing dudes, or strangled with a pair of leotards, who knows. But she was in fear for her life. These people that were supposed to be protecting her, the police and the school and security, or whatever form they had there, obviously did not do their job. I mean, they should have cleared that school of all those nutbags immediately as soon as it turned violent. The police should have been called in. They should have been dragged out, kicking, screaming, pepper sprays, tased, and put in the back of a paddy wagon and dragged off to the mental institution where they belong. But this did not happen because they don't want to offend the psycho leftists. They're too afraid to say anything, whether it's the school or even the police department, whose job is to protect people. They're too afraid to say or do anything because it might upset the mob. Now, the mob has that much power and control over everything in the US at the moment, and starting to become increasingly bad here in Australia. You can't say or do anything without fear of reprisals of you getting found out and you're getting your job taken from you, getting cancelled, getting death threats, getting your home attacked, your workplace attacked, your children threatened. I mean, there was just recently a story on, it was a TikTok woman, a Muslim woman, who did sort of funny videos on TikTok, and she came out against Jeffrey Marsh on TikTok and just said that he's a bit of a groomer and that he's asking all these children to go and private message him, which I would call Jeffrey Marsh definitely a groomer. I mean, if you're asking children to go and privately message you on an app and talk to you when you're a full-grown male adult who doesn't even shave and pretends they're a woman, and you're obviously unhinged, I would call that grooming. Whatever happened to don't speak to strangers on the internet, don't get in cars with random people, all that's gone by the wayside now. And now they want people, and even some parents are wanting their children to be raised by and groomed by these freaks and mentally ill people. And they're the ones sicking their followers onto people on the right, like Riley Gaines, or like this Muslim woman from TikTok. She had her address leaked. She had her children's schools' addresses leaked. She had death threats against her. She had death threats against her children. All because she didn't say anything nasty about it. She just pointed out that there were several things that indicate that this person was grooming a child, and that TikTok promotes that, which is another conversation we need to have. But She was attacked and she capitulated and apologised for the video and asked people to leave her alone because she was terrified. It just shows anyone who speaks up against the left, against into this trans ideology. At the moment, it's trans ideology. Next week, it could change to something else. But anyone who speaks against the left and what they're pushing is attacked. And the right stands back and does nothing. The right stands there and says, okay, yep, that happened. Don't do that again. That's very mean. If the right ever stood up and did something, anything like the left does, whether they were burning cars down in the streets and protesting George Floyd riots, those kind of things, if the right ever did that, my God, you can imagine the media storm that would create. And then the right would stand back. Most of the right would stand back and say, you shouldn't do these things. It was terrible and blah, 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 blah. And they capitulate. And that's why the left is winning. And that's why the left looks like they are going to win in this case. It looks like women are going to be kicked out of this sport. And if they say anything about it, they're going to be beaten up and punched by a man in a dress. And then the victim here is still the man in a dress somehow. We'll finish this story here from Fox News. This will not stop Riley from boldly educating people on the dangers of biological males in women's sports. She will continue to speak through the truth against the radical left that no longer understands the difference between men and women. Footage shared on social media by the Golden Gate Express, the school's student-run newspaper, showed a small protest emerge ahead of the Gaines' arrival on school Thursday evening. Other pieces of footage of the outlet show the protest growing in size, eventually becoming so chaotic that Gaines was escorted out of the room down a hallway by police and barricaded in a separate room. It seems like it's Rent-A-Crowd again. It's like they go and put out a message out on their Discord servers or whatever they're using to garner up protesters, garner up Antifa, and garner up insane trans men in dresses. I mean, they have some sort of terrorist organisation going on where they call for backup and they blow their bugle horn and wave their trans flag, and you have all these insane people clad in black a lot of the time with masks, weapons, and they crash the event, destroy and attack whatever they need to get it shut down. There is no freedom of speech anymore. It's ridiculous. The country that touts themselves as the most free country in the world is getting throttled and silenced by a bunch of men in dresses and libs with blue hair, and they don't even know what gender they are, don't even know what their names are or pronouns are 90% of the time, and they get the entire US is held hostage by these people at the moment. It's nuts. Other pieces of footage show the outlet protest growing in size, blah, blah, blah. While she was being moved to a safer location, protesters were captured on video chanting various phrases along the lines of "Go the F home" and "Trans women are women" while placing transgender flags on school walls. The outlet also shared images showing some members of the TPUSA staff being held up and escorted out of the venue amid the protests. Chris Trudell, the assistant dean of the students, was reportedly seen trying to de-escalate the situation. The University Police Department at San Francisco University issued the following statement to Fox Friday morning. "We are conducting and organising an ongoing investigation into the situation. There are no arrests related to the event. The disruption occurred after the conclusion of the event, which was made it necessary for UPD officers to move the event speaker from the room to a different safe location." A statement of Fox News TPUSA spokesperson said that the counter-protest to Gaines' speech was organised by the FSU's Queer and Trans Resource Centre. The spokesperson said the rowdy protesters outside the room rushed in when the event was over. Why is there money going towards something called the Queer and Trans Resource Centre? That is insane. There's no like white straight male centre, is there? There's no white straight women centre, is there? There's nothing like that. It's queer people and trans people are not held down and held back by society. And I never ever saw an issue with anyone hating on gay people or trans people until the last few years when you started shoving it in everyone's face. I mean, if we went and waved our straight white male flag, I'm sure someone's made one, around and started telling you what our fetishes are, and then trying to tell your children what our fetishes are and how they should find their own fetish, and trying to talk to them privately in private messages and that, I'm sure you guys would be kicking up a stink about it as well. And what needs to happen with this school, what needs to happen with that police department, what needs to happen with that dean, they need to be sued. They need to have the pants suit off them. Hope Riley Gaines sues the absolute crap out of them and wins, because what they let happen was an absolute disgrace. They let a girl who came there to speak about women's rights get bullied and beaten and kidnapped and held hostage by men. I mean, if that was any other way around, if that was a trans speaker going and talking, and then they were kidnapped, beaten up by a bunch of people, and then held in a hostage situation for 3 hours while police were trying to calm them down, that would be front page news everywhere, and they would say that this is worse than 9/11, this is worse than the Holocaust, like they pretend it is, and you'd never hear the end of it. And that Riley Gaines would be like number one on most wanted list, would be probably in prison or something for some sort of trumped up charge, and you'd never hear the end of it. But because it's the left doing the violence, because it's the left creating a scene and attacking women and violently beating up women, men in dresses are doing this, because it's a man in a dress, because it's the left, they get away with it time and time again. Gaines, the 12-time All-American swimmer, became a national figure when she objected to trans swimmer Leah Thomas participating in women's sports. Many athletes, such as former Olympian Nancy Hogshead-Makar, has warned that biological males have made a clear advantage over biological women when they compete. The swimmer also serves as a spokeswoman for the Independent Women Forum, which condemned the incident via social media just hours after it took place. Riley was violently accosted, ambushed, and physically assaulted during a speech on sex discrimination women face in their own single-sex sports category. Victoria Coley, Vice President of the Communications of the Independent Women's Forum, Riley is courageous in speaking up for the truth, science, and common sense. She has experienced firsthand the injustice female athletes face across America in their own sport. The San Francisco Police Department did not immediately respond to Fox News' request for a comment on the situation. We're going to have a look at the footage that Riley had put up on Twitter, and you can just listen to the hate, the venom, and the insanity and mental illness that is coming from these people. If they'd got a hold of her, they would have killed her. And no one's facing any charges. The man that hit her isn't facing any charges. Look at there's one prominent person here who's screaming and then cuts her off, and they kind of get funneled into a room here. That woman, whatever the hell it is, needs to be charged with assault. I mean, terrorism even. I don't get how that they haven't laid any charges on any of these people. We'll take a look here. Obviously, you can't see very much. It's a pretty chaotic situation. But look at that nut. They force her into that room. Police aren't being jack off. Whoever the big black guy is trying to calm them down, but there's no calming them down. What you need to do is you need to grab that bald-headed hoop-wearing bitch and yeet her out of the room. If you grab one and then just start dragging them out and arresting them, then you're going to eventually be left with none of them. So the police standing there and not doing anything is an absolute disgrace. The school not coming out and condemning it is a disgrace. Letting it happen in the first place. It's not like she was there to debate on whether trans people should exist, whether trans people should be getting surgeries, all that kind of inflammatory conversation. She was there literally just talking about how that she, as a swimmer, as a female swimmer, should not have to compete against biological males. We are in insanity clown world. I don't know what to call it. It's insane that women have to say that they do not want to be in change rooms with men. They do not want to compete against men in sports, especially physical sports, combat sports even, and that they don't want men to be in their locker rooms and bathrooms. That is where we're at as a society. And this whole distraction, this whole trans agenda distraction thing that's going on is terrifyingly working well for them, isn't it? Because the whole world's on the brink of World War III, nuclear World War III. Human race has stagnated, and we're sitting here debating who's got what bits in their pants. I mean, we should have progressed past this as a human race by now, but apparently not. I don't know whether it's the World Economic Forum, people like Klaus Schwab, or BlackRock. Whoever's doing this is doing a fantastic job, and America is useless at the moment. They have a weak ass president that can't remember his name half the time, can't go up a flight of stairs without falling down, eats ice cream and gets distracted while sniffing girls' hair. They have the universities in the US that were heralded as some of the best in the world, if not the best in the world, have turned into madhouses and clown and circuses, basically. It's like clown school, every single one of them, where they come out of there with a doctorate in knowing what trans people feel and whatever. It's insanity on a scale of which we've never seen before, and it just shows the demise of the West that is happening at the moment, and hopefully that people like Riley Gaines speaking out against it with common sense, people like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Tim Pool, hopefully people like this can steer us in a direction where we have a future, because if this keeps happening and we go down the toilet with this, it's going to end in bloodshed, it's going to end in a civil war, it's going to end in a very tragic, bloody way. And I don't know about you, but there's something basic as women should be able to compete in their own sports against women without the fear of men entering those sports and beating them. That is a conversation we don't really need to have. It's common sense. It should just be set in stone that women should be the only ones in women's sports. But I suppose that's the issue, isn't it? They're trying to pretend that men who want to be women are actual women when they're not. It's not our fault they were born with a mental illness that makes them want to be in the other in another body. Gender dysphoria is a real thing, and people are obviously affected by it to a massive extent where they go and cut off body parts. But just because they're mentally ill doesn't mean the rest of us have to put up with it, doesn't mean the rest of us have to go along with it. Like if you said that you saw a pink elephant every time you went outside and you talked to it like it was your friend, it doesn't mean I'm going to talk to it, doesn't mean I'm going to pretend it's real. No one else should. I think people like Riley Gaines have got a bright future ahead of them, as long as they're not murdered by these trans psychos and leftist nutbags and that. But I hope she sues the school. I hope she sues the police department. I hope she sues and wins. And I hope the charges are laid against the man that hit her. But I don't see that happening. The poor girl was attacked and beaten by a man in a dress, and no one seems to care. The right's going to sit there quietly and ignore the facts, and they're not going to jump up and down about it like the left does about the smallest thing. So I don't know about you, but a bit black-pilled on the whole situation, but we'll see where it goes. Thanks for watching here at Crossing the Line. Leave a comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in another episode. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.